Welcome to the Blueprint Strategy Podcast, your premier destination for insights and innovations in healthcare and nonprofit leadership. I'm your host, Todd Schmiedeler, and together we'll explore the strategies and stories that are transforming these vital sectors. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and invited to the conversation. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome again to another episode of the Blueprint Strategies, where we sit down with leaders that are both from the healthcare and the nonprofit world. And I'm excited today that we are bringing a little bit of an international twist to the table today with Omar Ayyash. Omar is the CEO of the World Trade Center of Kentucky and a close friend. We've known each other for 20 years.
Let's not count.
I think I know. I know his better half. We used to work together at the Center for Women and Families. But Omar, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. Excited to hear. Is there ever been a time when the international trade has been more of a hot topic than it is right now?
Hey, Todd, thanks for having me on this. I'm really excited. And yes, I really appreciate the friendship that we've had over the years and our working relationship. You're right. Trade and particularly the word tariffs. I bet you.
Oh, my gosh.
People didn't know what that word before, the beginning of this year. And now probably a 5-year-old is going around saying, tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. I can't get my toy because it's got more expensive because of the tariff.
Well, they might be adding some tariffs in at school. The kids get really entrepreneurial nowadays. And so I wonder whether or not they're using that language to get some more money. But,
interesting.
I've got to tell you, your role with the World Trade Center of Kentucky, is so critical to our state. We always talk about business, recruiting businesses into the state and how that is an economic engine for our state and provides jobs for our people, but the work you do to help small businesses either A, connect with international markets, or B, to connect those international markets to come to Kentucky is absolutely critical for our economic development.
100%.
Tell us a little bit about how that works for you and what you do for businesses that want to export. Let's start there, because we have so many businesses that I think want to expand, but they don't necessarily know how, especially in this world where everything's a little bit different.
Wonderful. Todd, if I may, I want to actually go back a little bit with a view of history. This is my second stint with the World Trade Center. So I was here with the World Trade Center from 95 to 2001, and now the last 3.5 years. And it really is phenomenal to see the shift in how the state has really become a global marketplace. In 1995, when I would travel around the state and talk to executives about doing international business, and I would ask the typical question, are you exporting? And I would get the resounding yes.
Yes, yeah.
And then it would be like, where to? Alabama, Tennessee.
Well, those are a little bit of a foreign country, at least Alabama.
Yeah.
And
so you look to today, $48 billion left the state of Kentucky last year in terms of export. $32 billion came in terms of imports. Jefferson County is number 1. Boone County is number 2. Fayette County is number 3. So there's been a huge shift in our landscape of how important international trade. And yesterday I got to see another video that showed, in terms of GDP for the state of Kentucky, in the nation, we're number 2. How much it affects our economy and in terms of workforce development, in terms of businesses charting out products, services, and things of that nature. So that's the phenomenal shift that's happened.
Well, I'm so used to hearing that we're ranked number 49th.
Hey, not anymore. Not international trade.
Sometimes I think, thank goodness for Mississippi. But in international trade, we actually we're at the top side of international trade and how it impacts our economy.
We are. Definitely, the fact that we're a logistics hub plays a major part in that. World Port being right here, almost every package around the country on this side of the country has to come to Louisville at night and goes and flies somewhere in the world. There's a direct flight, I think, that UPS takes every night from here to Dubai with packages. And not only we're grateful for UPS, but I think also Northern Kentucky.
Oh,
With
absolutely.
DHL being there.
Yeah.
And then FedEx is all, so all these play a major part. And then we're a 7-hour drive from 2/3 of the U.S. population.
That's we underestimate I think I did at least underestimate the value of that. That, as much as, I travel on flights, to places, packages still travel inside the United States by road.
That's right.
And
rail.
And so it's great to have Worldport here where packages get in from all across the world and go out to all across the world, but we still have to be connected by rail and by road so that we can get those packages where we want them to go in the United States. And so to be connected to 2/3 of the United States from, Kentucky, I think is a huge marketing play for us.
Also Riverport by barges.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Okay.
So we are strategically located for any business that wants to do business in the world. Louisville, Kentucky, or the state of Kentucky is a perfect place.
So how do you connect a business? Let's say that I've got this small business, all right, and I'm starting to explore international trade. And let's look at maybe two examples. I want to go to Canada. Okay, it's close off. And then, I know that you've got a trip coming up to Dubai.
That's right.
So let's look at a scenario where I'm a business and I want to do business in Canada, explore business in Canada, and I want to explore business in the UAE. What would that look like? How would the World Trade Center, be able to help me?
Well, the way I look at it is almost like multiple touch points.
Okay.
And we go through the touch points. So the first thing that we do as the World Trade Center, we offer premier training programs.
Okay.
Our International Trade Certification Program, which we're actually getting ready to do another one here, is a 3-day program that introduces any business, small, medium, and large business, on what's market access, what's payment, what's logistics, what's legal. We take them through 3 days of full comprehensive curriculum. And not only do we do that through the World Trade Center, which we can, but we also bring about 13 different speakers into that class. That's
wow.
The ecosystem.
Okay.
So you get to meet your banker, you get to meet your lawyer, you get to meet your freight forwarder. So that's the first touch point.
Okay.
The second touch point is we start looking at, how can we get you into the market? And typically, we do matchmaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's very simple. In my mind, it's like, dating and such. Okay, let's find someone that you're compatible with.
Well, I can say, knowing your wife, you must be good at it.
I am.
I mean, and so I would think that I'll just tell you, Omar's a very lucky man. His wife is amazing, smart, beautiful woman.
Blushing here. I'm blushing.
And she's successful.
She is.
And I think she holds a position internationally.
She does. She is with the State Department at the American Mission in the United Arab Emirates.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm lucky to have a successful wife, Lena. Hi.
Yeah. So all right. So you connect to education. You help businesses connect to ecosystems. You bring in all of these, great connections with what you're doing. You even help connect people with businesses in the market.
That's right. And there's 2 ways that we go about that. One is what we call inbound trade missions. So we're constantly hosting people to come to Kentucky. We just had
I think you just had one, didn't you?
We just had the U.S. Consul General of Canada in Detroit and his entire team.
Okay, great.
And that's one way to say, look, I'm bringing the government officials from other countries to come and meet our Kentucky businesses and help them out in the process. 2 is what we're talking about in terms of the trade missions.
Okay.
And we take outbound trade missions. So every year for the last 3 years, we've been going to Dubai. And Todd, you're getting ready to go with us.
I am. I finally made my commitment, and so I'm excited to be able to go.
Yeah. I know you've been to the UAE maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, actually, I think it was 20 years ago. Twice 20 years ago. One time was for business, and I had the good fortune to speak at Zayed University's conference on women.
Okay.
And so that was during my time at the Center for Women and Families, and talking about how to be empowering for women across the world. And really making a touch point for them to understand how it is that freedom can help them become more successful as individuals. Some of that, is a little more difficult in other parts of the world. it's not as profound and not as mature as it is in the United States. And so we had the good fortune, myself and Kathy Dykstra, who, is still one of my close friends. We went over there and spoke at Zayed.
Oh, I didn't know you went with Kathy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I try not to do anything by myself anymore.
Okay.
And that's been a long time, kind of mantra for me is that I like being at the forefront of things, but I don't like being there alone. Mm-hmm. I find that I'm more successful when I'm with a friend who I then have a commitment to them. They have a commitment to me, and we can brainstorm together about how we overcome the barriers and, what otherwise probably would have been a brick wall for me alone becomes a speed bump for us together.
Wow, how wonderful.
And so, so tell me about, going to Dubai in a trade mission. Because I'm really interested in this because I've never done this before.
So one of the things that I've got to tell you is 20 years ago you were there.
Yeah.
20 years later, you're going to be blown.
Oh,
the growth that place has seen. I lived there for 12 and a half years full time. And I used to tell the people that used to be there before me, the 10 years before me, I said, how lucky you were to experience a total transformation. And then I lived it.
Oh,
and what it boils down to is that, certain parts of the city, you'll be driving there and you would think, in 5 years from now, that's just going to continue to be desert. And then it becomes a metropolis.
Wow.
Where they had the expo site in 2021, the World Expo site.
Yes.
I would drive there and I would think there's no way that's going to come up. And it does.
Huh.
But anyhow, the great thing about us doing a Dubai trade mission, there's actually in my mind a very close connection again, which I talked about the logistics.
Yes. Yeah.
The UAE is a logistics hub.
Okay.
70% of the products that go into their largest port, which is Jebel Ali, gets re-exported to the MENA region, to the Middle East and North Africa region. And so we want to capitalize and take Kentucky companies to realize what's going on.
Huh.
And we do that through 3 anchor events.
Okay.
We go to Expand North Star, which is one of the largest startup events ever. So our startups here in Louisville and Lexington that are scaling join us for that.
Yeah.
Then we go to GITEX, which is the largest technology trade show in the world right now, B2B.
Yes.
180 countries are represented on that. And then for the first time this coming October, we're going to an EV mobility show that we got invited into by the Sharjah Expo Center. And these are the anchor events.
Yeah.
But then on the sides of this, we do dinners and we do morning meetings and breakfast. As a matter of fact, I'm so excited about the American Chamber of Commerce in North Dubai, in the Northern Emirates, inviting you to join their GITEX kickoff breakfast as one of their panelists.
Yeah, that was unexpected, and I appreciate the intro because I know that they come to you seeking kind of insights on who's coming and whether or not there's anybody in the trade mission that would be appropriate. And I'm really flattered to sit on that panel. It's funny because when we had the briefing just the other day, one of the companies who are sitting on the panel, there's a Microsoft person, but one of the person was on it was from Stryker, which is the largest medical manufacturer in the world, and actually a client of ours at Thumbprint.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Care.ai, an AI technology, has been a client for a couple of years now. And I'm fascinated by what AI and ambient technology, how it can improve our healthcare system, and more importantly, allow for our workforce to be able to be more of a care force. Spending time with people, not just spending time in the transactions between incidents that are going on at a healthcare facility. And I think there's the ability to have technology complement what people do. Because in the end, especially in healthcare, people take care of people. I don't see that there's a way for technology to replace people on actually caring for and about people. I mean, how do you replace technology when half of the business isn't just caring for somebody, it's caring about them? And technology doesn't have any feelings. So if it doesn't have any feelings, how can it replace that?
It's interesting that you highlight this because, I'm reflecting as you're saying all of this. This mirrors international trade.
Okay.
So, we
Yeah.
can talk about the trade policies and all the challenges that on the political side that might exist.
Yeah.
But if you don't spend time in the market, if you don't do FaceTime
Yeah.
and drink coffee in the majlis or if you will, have a meal with someone, business is not really going to get done. And this is what excites me about international trade.
Yeah.
Is because it's people to people making things happen. And again, the thing that we really try to do as the World Trade Center is, yes, we connect with the U.S. mission there. We connect with the American Chamber of Commerce. But our network of 330 World Trade Centers around the world really helps us diffuse this opportunity. So the Dubai World Trade Center is hosting us. The Sharjah World Trade Center is hosting us. And that's how we make things happen for Kentucky companies around the world.
So talk a little bit more about that network. So there's 331 World Trade Centers across the world in 91 countries. And basically what I heard you say is it's a network that allows the people that you're trying to serve to connect with the people that another sister World Trade Center may be serving, and they help make the networking connection.
Exactly. So, the dream when the World Trade Center Association started out is to create this facilitation between World Trade Centers around the world. And in a humble way, I would say World Trade Centers have built cities.
Yeah.
When you think about some of the tall buildings that have been erected, and they can be real estate developments in which, the international trade companies, the lawyers, the embassies, exhibition spaces go into that. And look at the Dubai World Trade Center. What it has done. I think in 1978, it was the only tall structure that existed in Dubai. And now look what it is. I mean, it has helped economic development in so many ways. And from my perspective, as someone leading the World Trade Center in Kentucky, if I pick up the phone and I call a World Trade Center in Taipei and say, I am coming in, or I've got a company that wants to enter that market, they receive them because we've got a connection already happening.
Well, I find it fascinating because, I've been in some level of business development for 30 years. And the fact that there is an organization that would help with my lead generation is fantastic.
100%. And we're a nonprofit. So not only do we help you with your lead generation, we want to make sure that you succeed.
So talk a little bit about that. So, the World Trade Center of Kentucky is a nonprofit. So how do you survive? Are there large fees to do this lead generation? Are you, I know you talked about training, education, these mission trips, all of these different services. So how do you exist from an organization standpoint?
Well, the easiest way to say it, most of the World Trade Centers in America tend to be tied as a nonprofit in some shape or form. And I pretty much think of ourselves as the Chamber of Commerce for the state of Kentucky, but with a very specific focus. Chambers of commerce can be generalized.
Absolutely.
We've got a very specific focus.
Okay.
And the bulk of our funding right now is companies in the state of Kentucky are members of the World Trade Center. So before we start really talking about any service, we ask you to join the network.
Right.
So you can develop a relationship.
Right.
And that
no different than a chamber.
Exactly. Then we do charge for some services here and there to sustain ourselves. Now, the challenge that has existed pretty much since 2022, now we're going into 5 years of that, is a lot of the government funding has eroded.
Yes.
At the local level. We were nicely funded by the city of Lexington. We don't get that anymore. We were nicely funded by the city of Louisville or Louisville Metro Government. We don't get that anymore. We've lost some of our federal funding here recently.
Okay.
So grants are there to supplement that. And then, give for good Louisville. And
right.
So anyone that wants to support the World Trade Center, we're ready for that, Todd.
That's right. So can they come to your website and not only join, but can somebody who says, look, I want to continue to foster, international international growth within the state of Kentucky. We're number 2. I'd like to see us get to number 1, and I think an investment in the World Trade Center, of Kentucky would be a way to focus that. Can they make a donation, to you guys?
They can, definitely,
Okay.
because we have a foundation. We've set up a foundation for those kinds of activities that support the work that the membership organization is doing.
So why do you think the cities have gone away from funding? And I know that's a touchy subject, and I don't want to put you in a bad place, okay? But I think it's important to understand the dynamics of shifts in markets, because it sounds like that, the World Trade Center of Kentucky has been one of the catalysts to not only help businesses be able to expand, and I mean, we've got some great businesses who've done, our international juggernauts. I mean, you think about even, the bourbon industry and the growth of the bourbon industry and how much of that has grown, partly from international growth, but we've got the Lexmarks of the world, the countless organizations who have built major kind of business from an international perspective that are here. Why wouldn't a city want to continue to foster that? Is it just because the budgets are just crazy?
There are needs on the local level, but let's put that aside. I want to highlight it from a number of different perspectives. I've talked about where Kentucky was with international trade and where it is today.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about my own personal experience when I arrived here in 1990 as a 17-year-old kid moving from Vienna, Austria. The other world was here. And America was here. I was mesmerized by the big malls, the big cars, the level of innovation that was happening. When I moved back here in 2022, that had shifted,
it's more leveled out.
It has.
And the gap between how far ahead we were and the rest of the world, the rest of the world's
exactly.
Okay.
And the only reason I highlight that for everyone listening here, the listeners, is that we need to be competitive. We need to continue
100%
to work on that. And we need to continue to make sure that our economy continues to be the number one engine.
Yes.
But what has resulted in that shift of globalization that we've moved into is that there's been a shift in politics towards protectionism. There's been a shift in politics towards nationalism. There's been a shift in politics towards thinking locally. And I urge people, yes, that's important. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
We want jobs here. The news about, Texas Roadhouse doubling down on Louisville is great. The news about GE appliances and what they've done is wonderful.
Amazing.
The news about Ford is phenomenal.
Yes.
But at the same time, in order for you to continue to be competitive, you've got to invest in diversifying your economy. And that's where international trade comes into that. So it's very important to keep that momentum going.
Well, and ultimately, our local economy is benefited from businesses that are successful in their generating revenue. And if they have a limited market and they're only focused on a smaller U.S. market, and I'm not saying that it's obviously the biggest market in the world.
It's a missed opportunity.
It's a complete missed opportunity for us to not have growth outside of the United States, because we want more employees to have better wages, better benefits, and you do that by continually growing your market, as a business. And that allows you to have that flexibility. But if all you're doing is taking your market and you're really just internalizing your market and shifting your money and asking your own people to fund themselves, then eventually that becomes a very difficult cycle to continue.
100%. And I want to emphasize something that's extremely important, and that is workforce development.
Yes.
And workforce development really starts in the school system. It starts in the community colleges. It starts in the universities. The World Trade Center is very active in trade education at that level and cross-cultural understanding at that level. At the same time, going back to why a trade mission is important, is you need to go out there and see what technology is available in that market. You need to go find out what type of training is available in that market, what type of opportunity, and bring it back home. That's why there has been a level playing field. And at the end of the day, you got to figure out a way where you constantly are providing value.
So I'm interested in something you just highlighted on about education. Talk to me about, a vision around how the World Trade Center can basically train up the next generation of leaders within the state of Kentucky. Let's say that whether it's elementary school or middle school or high school, even before college, is there anything that you can see that the World Trade Center could do to foster that kind of education and understanding at an earlier age?
Well, I mean, there's two things that we already do.
Okay.
And there's one thing I urge the community to take on. The first thing is we can take our international trade certification and put it as part of a certification program in the school
I think
system.
that would be, wouldn't that be so cool? I think about my kids and coming away and having not only, getting a CNA so that they could do that, but, have the ability to actually understand international trade.
Yeah. One of the things that I'll never forget as a little kid growing up in Vienna, every time I'd leave my house to go catch the tram, I'd stop by a bank and see at the exchange values of the currency to the dollar. At that time, it was shilling. Now it's euro to the dollar.
Yeah.
And that became part of my mindset. Here in the United States, we don't have that because it's a huge market and you don't need that. So think, just like we said, where the language of import and export and tariffs becomes standard language. So the other part is cross-cultural understanding.
Okay.
And again, we are in such a global marketplace, whether it's in the domestic side or on the global side.
Right.
And what I mean by that, your future workforce is not going to look like you anymore.
Yeah.
So you need to understand their worldview. So that way you can better manage. And we have a course that's available for that. So again, international trade certification, cross-cultural understanding programs that are already offered through the World Trade Center. Right now, we only offer those at the university level, but we can take it down to the high school level. And then third thing is I would encourage every high school, every university to highlight study exchange programs. My daughter Selma is at the University of Cincinnati. She grew up in Dubai all her life. Where's she this semester? Barcelona, doing a study exchange program.
Wow.
And that kind of thing builds character.
Yes. Well, and, I didn't get a chance to do that when I was in school, but I will, to a similar degree. I took a mission trip with my oldest daughter to Africa when she graduated high school. It was the gift that I gave her for graduation. And we went to Africa for 10 days and did some missionary work. And that opened my eyes. I had been to other countries, obviously, on vacations, but it's different when you're immersed, when you're part of a community, and you begin to understand not only, frankly, the first thing I understood was how blessed I really was, but then I also saw how blessed those people were because we worked at a small school. There were about 400 kids at this school, and this school had no walls. It was basically the foundation of a building, and they didn't have to pay taxes if they never put walls on.
Wow.
Okay. So there's all these buildings with no walls because they didn't have any money to pay taxes. And so there was no bathroom, no anything like that, just, the concrete structure. And there's 400 kids at this place, all walk to school miles. Okay. And I've never, ever seen such happy kids coming to school. And I thought to myself, if I stood outside of, at the time, one of our kids was at Stouffer Elementary, great school here in Louisville. If I stood outside, would I see the same joy for all the kids coming in that I was seeing from these kids who were literally walking into a building with no walls, no bathrooms, and this is how we taught. I got a lesson book and I had a chalkboard and I wrote from the chalkboard what was on the lesson book. And then those kids had pencil and paper. And that's all they had. And they rewrote what was in the book that I wrote on the chalkboard. That was the lesson. Okay. And yet they're happy. engaged.
So it overemphasizes the point I'm constantly talking about today, where we are and where our position.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you tend to see lately is a lot of entrepreneurs in this country tend to be immigrants. A lot of CEOs in this country tend to be immigrants, which is a good thing.
Yeah, sure.
But one of the key factors, I remember reading an article, and maybe in the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times, about why are these CEOs succeeding. And it said, in America, the bus stops at the bus stop. It's easy to get into the bus.
Mm-hmm.
In foreign countries, the bus doesn't stop at the bus stop. It stops before the bus stop or after, because the number of people trying to get in is too many. So grit is very important. And opening your eyes, just like you're talking about that Africa trip, gives our next generation, or our current generation, next generation, to understand what the world is all about.
Well, I think, to your point, grit, resilience, those are traits that whether you're in healthcare, the nonprofit world, a startup, those are key traits for any leader to be able to be successful 100%. And to really understand not only their business, but to understand their people. So appreciate the conversation, man.
We could talk for hours.
It's always good. And when we think about, what we're doing in Kentucky, and across the United States, I do think that there is a really important part of understanding about what's going on throughout the world that can actually bring value, and I don't know of another organization that is as connected to bringing value to business leaders than the World Trade Center of Kentucky. And you particularly, Omar, and your desire and your willingness to extend your own personal relationships that you've built over the last 30 years into our state has truly made a transformational impact. And so I'm thankful for you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, just remember, Omar's information and the information about the World Trade Center, I'll put it in the contact info in the show notes. I want to thank the audience for being here again. Thank you so much. And we will be back in 2 weeks with just another amazing speaker. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks, Omar. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Blueprint Strategy Podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and inspired you to take action in your own organization. To stay connected and never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on our socials. And remember, you can find more resources and information at www.thumbprint.consulting. Again, that's www.thumbprint.consulting. Until next time, keep finding ways to innovate and to leave your mark.